G'day guys and welcome to the match review of the Carlton v Brisbane game. What was it in the end? What was it, about a 4-goal loss, 18-point loss in the end at Marvel Stadium on Saturday night. I'm just going to say straight away, I'm torn. I'm really torn, but I'm not broken, not in the slightest. I'll get to that later on. I just want to say, I think we're a very reactive football club. And I wanted to explore that in this episode and in this review. I think it was really important I did this, and I'm glad I didn't do this review yesterday. I was caught up doing a lot of other things, but it gave me a lot of time to reflect. And a lot of our problems are based around being very reactive. And I think the appointment, obviously, of John Worsfold, which, it looks good on paper. It's just another example of being reactive and appearing to really be listening to the voices externally, not only from the fans but also from the general media. And it's almost we're almost like we're 6 months behind in any decision we make. We're 6 months behind, and I think that's an area where we need to get a lot better at. The thing I really wanted to reflect on, though, for this, and I know this review is not going to appease a lot of you who come here to see me just blow my rocket. There's no doubt I've given the club some clips over the time, and there's no doubt that I think being continually negative is definitely, for a lot of us, we like to hear it. But I did hear Tony Cochrane speak on the radio on Saturday afternoon before our game against Brisbane. And the thing that really hit me about Tony Cochrane, he's the Gold Coast Suns boss. I think he was being questioned or probed on Jonathan Brown labelling the club as being soulless. And he said the easiest thing in the world is for people to be negative. And this is a very successful businessman. And he just said it's so easy to be negative. Anything positive is seen as being a weakness, seen as being almost putting your rose-coloured glasses on and making excuses and not being accountable, blah, blah, blah. And there's a level, I suppose, of truth about that. But I think, like a lot of things, I think the truth sometimes lies somewhere between the really negative and the positive. It has to. So I wanted to explore this notion about us being reactive and why do we appear to be stuck in second gear. And the performance on the weekend wasn't bad. Okay, the second quarter was horrendous, unrecognisable to the third and fourth. But that's where we're at. Okay, that's where we're at, and we need to continue to ask really hard questions about that and why. And why is that happening? And there's no doubt, since T took over from round 12 to 23 in 2019 when he first took over, there was an obvious spike. We beat Brisbane straight away, went on to play finals, but that was on the back of emotion. But we had some really good wins. We had some good wins against teams around about us. A few just a little bit above us, some below us, but around about us. Okay? What did we go? We won 6 out of our last 11. But I remember at the time, we lost to the Bulldogs. We got close, but we lost to the Bulldogs, played finals. We lost to the West Coast Eagles, played finals. We lost to Richmond 2019, they won the grand final. And we lost to Geelong 2019, played finals. I think they played in the prelim. Other than the Geelong game, where it was the last game of the year, we got pretty close in times in those games. And I remember saying at the time, they're just too good for us. They're just too good for us because this is where we're at. Teague's taken over and this is where we're at. We're 3 or 4 goal, they're 3 or 4 goal better team than us. 5. And I remember thinking in that West Coast game, we've pushed them here. But nothing has sort of changed. So this is, for me, the frustration. Since Teague took over in that period, nothing has changed. We're still that level away from the better opposition. So that's the reality of the situation. I hear things like we just know how to win, and once we know how to win and it clicks, we'll win. Well, maybe. But we were good enough to win against the Gold Coast Suns and Fremantle, and doesn't that win against Fremantle seem just a little bit better than what it was at the time? Same with the Gold Coast win. Maybe they're not as bad as we thought, but we knew how to beat them, but we're not good enough to beat the other opposition, and we need to know why. And we are very reactive, okay? And I want to know why we're sort of 6 months behind in our decision-making. And a lot of our decisions sometimes are based on emotion. So a thing that Chris Fagan said in the post-game, Poppy Fagan as I called him, in that press conference last week, the mock press conference, which was satire, for those of you who didn't get it. Okay, and it was a fraction disrespectful, but at the same time, I was having some fun in the seriousness of the back end of last week and everyone having a solution to our problems. I wanted to have a bit of fun and a bit of a piss take. But this one, I'm trying to be as serious as possible. And I've got a shitload of notes here which make no sense. But Poppy Fagan said this after the game. This sort of resonated with me and got me trying to empathise a little bit with our situation rather than just being irrational and saying, Teague's no good, rebuilds failed, old guys are hacks, all that sort of stuff. There's no doubt Carlton came out to play today. They've been under the heat all week, Fagan said. And then he said, for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. That's what he said. He had, why are the Carlton under heat? Because he then went on to say, I think they're going quite well in terms of their development. It's not their fault. This is what really hit me. It's not their fault that the club struggled for the last 20 years. And what he's basically said, it's not their fault, the players now and the coach now, that the fucking club was a shambles. An absolute shithole for 20 years. And it took us to be 6 years behind any other club in the competition to change. Once again, reactive to change. It took us 6 years. So I want to go back, okay, to what Fagan was basically saying. He's saying we're an okay footy side. And we're, they're on track. But fucking in a brutal competition, if we think, and I've been guilty of this as well, and I've been saying all along, we should be by 6 years, we should be, and that's the narrative now, we should be. But 6 years ago, we stripped this club back to absolute bare minimum, almost to the point of being like a Gold Coast Suns or a GWS Giants. New list. We often think of rebuilds just new players, but new list manager, new coach, new development strategies, new footy department, new leadership. The only thing that didn't change was the president. Okay, that's an interesting one. Maybe for another time. But absolutely unheard of, really, a rebuild like this, because we were so slow to change, for change. So it was a new way, essentially a new way of thinking, new way of behaving, a new way of approaching football. Exactly the way the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS Giants were starting out. And I remember thinking at the time, it's going to be long because we're just like them. We're just like them. We're going to be patronised forever. It was going to be hard work. And the club hinted at there'd be some pain. There's no doubt about that. But this is the difference. This is the difference. And this is where I empathise, and this is where I think we've got it wrong at times. Well, you can make an argument we've got a lot of decisions wrong in that process. So we were banking 5 or 6 years ago in this rebuild, we were banking on getting everything spot on. Everything spot on to be hitting the ground running in year 7, to be playing finals and to winning grand finals. We were banking on it. List, everything, coaching, everything. Strategies, everything. Appointments, whatever that may be. And not only that, but also trying to change the culture as well. That to me is mind-blowing thinking about that now, and how I think blind from a supporter point of view I was. Because the problem with Carlton and the difference between us and the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS Giants, if we got, at the time and now still, we have 150 years of history. Okay, so we're trying to start a new club, but we still have the history. We still have the past, the successful past. We still have the scrutiny of a big club. And with scrutiny will then come expectations. And with expectations and a little bit of failure and it's not working out, will then come comments from past champions. And no disrespect to Mark McClure, I loved him as a player and I think his points were valid. But they don't help the situation because that was the past. That was the past in a completely different era, Mark, a completely different era. And one which I sort of want to forget because that's no longer, okay, that's not forgotten. You need to forget that. Because really, a lot of the stuff you say doesn't work that way anymore. And I think when you're starting from scratch, like we did, in hindsight, and this is where that pressure comes from, and always there looming over that shoulder is the history and the pressure from the past. And it's never going to go away. Comes rash decisions, thinking like too emotionally about the situation, panicking, being also reactive as well. And in hindsight, and I'll give you another example, in hindsight, was it a good decision? And I'm not talking about the issue with the list now is separate to the appointment of Stephen Silvani. I'm talking more about we were trying to start something new and fresh, but we then, our immediate thought was to get in a 300-game legend of the football club, one of the best players ever to put on the Carlton jumper, in really to control a huge part of the football club, which came so much scrutiny. I remember at the time there's so much. Remember the pressure that he was placed on the footy on footy classifieds that night, and us being so defensive and then the way the fallout as well. Okay, the fallout with Stephen Silvani. When you think about a really poor decision by the football club that they didn't get someone in, and maybe Sauce was the only one available, but I doubt it. They get someone in, okay, who didn't have that emotional attachment to the football club. And the same went with David Teague. And this is not a pot on David Teague because I think the club need to back him. Okay, because once again, we could fall into the trap of making rash decisions, but I think the club need to back him. But the way in the end of it, he was appointed on the back of a fan-based, I don't know, just a momentum that was just too hard. And I remember that standing ovation he got from past players who are now criticising him, mind you, at the time. How could the club not appoint him? Another former player, best and fairest winner, heart and soul type figure. Another emotional choice. So we've always got that pressure, and I don't think we've ever, and I don't know whether we're still dealing with it properly now. I really don't. But I empathise. I don't feel sorry for us. I'm not angry at us for being that way. I'm trying to understand it. And I think those problems run deep. They run deep within us culturally, still. And it came through on the weekend, again in this game against the Brisbane Lions. So we're in a rush, and when we're in a rush, I think the whole messaging, once again, and we're guilty of doing this even when we were a shambles, of pumping our tyres up to appease the fans and to appease the media. We don't seem to be professional in that approach. It's almost like we need a Neil Baum type to come in and straighten us up. So, the weekend, the reason why I'm not getting so down on this football club, okay, not giving up, is because I think I don't know. I think the problems are real and the challenges are real. And I don't know how they can be changed, really, because I don't know how they can be changed. I don't know how the solution to the history forcing this club to make decisions they do. Maybe Kane Little has been a good influence on this football club. Maybe he has, but at the same time he needs to sell memberships and hope. We'll just have to wait to see on that front. But on the weekend, I saw some positives. You might like to hear that. I saw some positives and a lot more than I did to see the week before. In fact, I didn't see any positives the week before. But I saw a more engaged David Cunningham here at his first game of the season. And thank fucking God we saw a more engaged David Cunningham. 6 years in the system. And he turned up looking like he wanted to play a game of AFL football. And the test now for him will be to do that next week and the week after. And it's not let's just get games into him, let's have faith in him and let's just play him for the sake of playing him. No. Problem. No. He needs to play with that same level of intensity, engagement that he did on the weekend. It doesn't have to dominate. He just needs to play with that. And also, we need him to grow into a very good footballer as well. I saw the best I've seen Patrick Cripps play for a very long time in that first quarter. I saw a bloke willing to change. I saw a bloke willing to go back to what made him a really special player, and that was winning the ball and being probably the most creative player in the competition by hand. And I thought that was a massive positive, although second quarter, possibly some other parts of the game, old habits, a few old habits that crept into his game came back. But he'd have to watch that first quarter. First time I've seen Liam Jones hit back against quality opposition. Hit back after a shaky start. And I reckon Hipwood, Danaher and McStay as the third is a really quality look forward line. And then chuck in Charlie Cameron and the guy that used to play at Geelong, McCarthy. It's got a fair bit going for it. And he was exceptional after quarter time. After half time. I thought, Harry, don't worry about the goals. And for me, I criticised him for being a prima donna. Cops an injury, uses it as a bit of excuse, limps around, goes off the ground. And I've seen that in the past, and maybe that's just maturing. He got crunched by fucking Mitch Robinson, who... It's one thing going in hard for the ball, but there's another thing just being a bit of a fucking cockhead. I don't know. Anyway, good on him. I do like Mitch Robinson, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. He's lucky he hasn't actually killed himself or killed someone else or seriously, mate. I don't know. I didn't see the incident because I was on the other side of the ground, but it looked, I don't know, it just looked ridiculous. But anyway, Harry fought on with a pretty bad corky. He came on and he continued to hit the packs hard. He looked fantastic and he smoked an All-Australian defender in the process. But it was the resilience he showed. And you're not going to get 6 goals every week. But I've seen those signs in Harry this year, that his body language is pretty good. And there were other small signs, and obviously Walsh continues to get better, which is hard to believe. And to think I reckon he's had a small, and this has been really critical, a small chink in his game, and I think that is his disposal at times. But geez, that's been picky. That is being picky. But we don't want to fall in the trap of idolising individuals. We don't. We don't want to fall into this, we've got Walsh, or we've got Harry. Because it's all about the team. It's all about the team with us. And you're going to have your stars in your team, but you want to be proud of the work they produce. And we weren't proud of that second quarter. But we like what we saw in the first. But my concern is we weren't able to put them away at any, not put them away, but we weren't able to put any real scoreboard pressure on them in that first quarter. And then I saw some signs at the end of that first quarter where we were kicking the ball aimlessly to Eddie and Vic Gibbons, two smallest players on the field, just kicking them blindly to them small blokes. That was at the end of the first quarter, and I thought the signs weren't good then. From a concentration point of view, I'd love to be in a fly on the wall, not a fly on the wall, but a fly on the shoulder of, say, Levi Casbolt at quarter time, or what the messaging was. Who knows what it was? But it didn't work, whatever it was. And maybe messaging sometimes and motivation can be, big bullshit, but something happened. I don't know what it was, but something happened. That was unrecognisable to what we dished up in the first quarter and quarters 3 and 4. And that is unacceptable, and that stinks of a team that is still middle of the road. And I think it also shows you that we're not good enough, really. We are not good enough at this stage to just drop off slightly too. Again, it showed also a good team like Brisbane can just slightly lift their output and really, and this happened against Port as well, really put us to the sword. And that needs to change. And I don't know how that changes with the list we've got at the moment. Because effort-wise, that wasn't a bad game. But I did see, and this is where I think the wheels haven't come off, okay? I did question whether the wording was getting a little bit stale, the messaging wasn't getting through from David Teague, and maybe the players have started to lose him. But I think all the proof is in that second half suggests the coach hasn't lost the players. I can't see that. You don't play like that, okay, when you're feeling like that at halftime. And I'll tell you what, I refuse to, especially when you're only 24, 25 points behind, I refuse to get on social media and go, we're crap, we're fucking shit, we're that. Because otherwise it can bite you on the arse. And that's what it's felt like at times this year. Felt like that against Port Adelaide. We at least fought back at times. And it felt like that on the weekend as well. We fought back. And I bet some of you were sitting there going, oh, fuck, jeez, I shouldn't have gone that. Because that's where we're at the moment. Best is okay. It can challenge. You can be competitive, but it's not good enough. So why isn't it good enough? And why hasn't it improved under David Teague in that period, in that regard? Did we rush decisions? Did we rush too early? Have we got the messaging wrong to us, the fans? Did we go too early because of the pressure and expectations of this big football club to tell us, to appease us that we want to play finals? Expectation, is that too much? I think it is. We don't know about Williams and Sard yet. They've been okay, but did we go too early? Were they the right players? Is it a realisation that we fucked up a couple of drafts? Do we now have to wait on not the Dows and the O'Briens and the Setterfields and the Kennys, but now we have to wait on that next group, the Carrolls, the Ramseys, maybe the Phillips and the Kemps? Do we now have to wait on them? And thank God we didn't get Papley. Thank God we didn't actually go after Papley when we did, I think. Because that meant we wouldn't have got Philp and we wouldn't have got Kemp and we wouldn't have got Ramsey. I think. Have I got that right? And really right now, would Papley be making us a lot better? Maybe he would. I don't know. But that's all hypothetical. But we never invested in a small forward when we could have in the early stages of the draft. We always wanted to get him from another club, a Carlton or a Pickett, and it hasn't worked. And now we're stuck with Eddie as a gap filler. Really, he shouldn't be playing. We're stuck with Levi, okay? And that's out of pure necessity. Become an absolute liability. Structurally, okay, is important, and that helps Harry, but he's become, as far as his own individual output goes, he's become a liability. He can't take a mark, 0 marks on the weekend. Even when he's playing in the ruck, he can't drop back in defence, okay, and give support there. I'm not buying into drop Murphy. Okay, he's got his limitations. But I'm not confident in bringing in a Dow or an O'Brien to replace. And don't give me, as far as I'm concerned, O'Brien's a bust. He's an absolute bust. He's not physical enough to play AFL football. I watched him on the weekend in the reserves. He can get the ball out in space, but doesn't, when that game against that reserves game was like a game of netball. And I know he's trying to improve the physicality of his game, but I know Murph's not physical, okay, but I'm more confident in a Murphy or a O'Brien, and even a Dow at this stage. Okay, and as far as I go, Murphy gives us more in terms of penetration and some class in centre field. Okay, so all that group, Setterfield, Dow, O'Brien, Kennedy is a sub, okay, are really floundering as far as I'm concerned. I know Setter's got 25 and 10, but it's just not a case of bringing him back in. He needs to stay there, okay, and get more penetration into his game. I don't know where Paddy Dow's at, but he's the same. Okay, so we're panicking now and bringing those guys in. Okay, I think it's a recipe for disaster as far as I'm concerned. So Murph stays until one of those can take his spot. It's as simple as that. So I'm taking Murphy's 19 and 2 goals before an 8 disposal, 10 disposal game by any of the others. Okay, and a really sort of ineffective game by Will Setterfield as well. And that's where we're at. That's a dreadfully underperforming group of first round draft picks right there. I don't know if it's development. I don't know what it is. And the thing that scares me when I watch that VFL game, and none of them were bad, but the thing that scares me is the best players and the most exciting players in that game were James Parson, a former Cat, and Ben Crocker? Okay, I thought, wow. And the only one I could see that possibly could come in to give us a bit of bite is Josh Honey. But I don't even know if at this stage I'm sold on him. And I was a fraction underwhelmed with Sam Ramsey's game. I thought he played within himself. He's a beautiful user of the football, and I'm sure he'll get his opportunities, but I was just a fraction underwhelmed with his performance. He's obviously had 2 really good games, and his last 2 have been okay. So he's no longer knocking down the door. He's just gone from knocking to tapping on the door. So I can't see this makeup changing a lot, and I'll get to the preview in my next episode. And no one's taking Ed's spot at the moment, Ed Curnow. No, that's the situation, and that's why we are not probably getting where we want to get to, and we're not going past or evening up with that group. Okay, so we know how to win because we've beaten Fremantle and Gold Coast, but you have to be good enough to win against the best, and we're not, and we're clearly not at the moment. But does that mean we chuck in the towel? Does that mean we chuck in the towel? No, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. I'm not going to chuck in the towel because I don't want that type of attitude to be in my football club at all, and I don't think it is. So it's about addressing the problems and not panicking and making reactive decisions. And it's also getting on the front foot. Before the pressure comes, okay, making good decisions before the pressure comes. So instead of hearing, development's a problem at Carlton, then they get Luke Power in. Instead of hearing, the Carlton players aren't fit, then they get in Luke Russell. Okay, so what are the problems now that they can see that we possibly can't see, that they know that's happening within the club, that they are proactive and going? I know there's resources and soft cap and all that, but they surely must know where the problems lie and stop being reactive. Why was this support given to David Teague at the back end of last year? I know he said talking to him in the hub and stuff, but why wasn't that appointment made? Why was it John Worsfold? Why wasn't it someone else? Okay, it's hard for us not to be cynical because we appear to be so slow on decision-making fronts. that's about it, guys. All right. I don't know if I swore a lot in that episode. I hope that makes sense. I'm sure it probably doesn't. No, I'm only joking. If you like these programs, please chuck us a subscription. And I'm not kidding you. And I was going to say, did I say this at the start? I don't think I did. I really appreciate the feedback. I know the feedback, and I know that the biggest ratings, if you call them ratings and views or whatever, are the ones where we get smashed, or where the losing videos always seem to have a lot more views. But there is a time to give the club a clip, and now's not the time, I don't think. And I know I did a mock press conference the other day and all that type of stuff, but I think sometimes you just got to take a step back. And look, I'm seeing football in a whole new light. I saw premierships as a kid, but that means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. I can't even remember. I saw them, but I can't remember. So I feel the same pain as the new generation supporters. I'm seeing everything in a new light, with a new set of eyes. Sometimes you have to sit back, okay, and try and understand the situation you're in. I'm not accepting it. I'm not accepting it. And if we fucking come out next week and don't put up a fucking consistent performance against Essendon, then Jesus Christ, watch out. But right now, okay, the wheels haven't come off. Trust me, the wheels have not come off. So go back and find out what could be the problem, what is causing this. I hope I've done that in this video. I'll see you again in a couple of days for the preview of the Essendon game. Goodbye for now.